tell us about the conversation you had about Felixstowe Youth Voice. What resonated for them?
So I spoke to my neighbour, Connor. I tried to get him to join at first, but unfortunately he was like, nah, it's not my thing, it's not my thing. He's a bit of a road man. But he did say that he liked the idea of it, and if he was involved, then he would probably, he'd probably enjoy anything. It's a good thing for young people to get involved in more active stuff. He just would rather be at home doing other things. But I've had lots of different conversations. I had a conversation with my boss, and my boss thinks it's very empowering to bring young people into a position where their voices are being heard. For me personally, I feel like that is a massive thing. I think it's just really good to be able to put young people in a position where they can actually take some action, or know what action they can take and move that on within their friendship groups or their own communities. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
It's one of my friends, and they thought it was a really good project, but actually thought we should be expanding it further from Felixstowe across the whole of Suffolk. I just think we would create more impact that way, and that's sort of the conversation we had, was around the impact that the project can make, which obviously would be really lovely for it to make a local impact to Felixstowe, but obviously it would just be great, I think, to involve more young people, and that's kind of where they were coming from with it. And they did show uneasiness around the role play.
To somebody that I work with, and they were surprised that someone was coming at this particular issue in such a creative way, and they thought that it was a really nice idea to promote community involvement in a way that they hadn't seen before.
To my best mate Ryan, and he liked the section. He liked that the session was structured in a way to be fun activities and brain teasers, keeping even the most inattentive, me, engaged and not being unable to follow along.
So I actually did tell one of my colleagues at work briefly about the kind of thing that we've been doing over the weekends. He didn't have a whole lot of input because, as mentioned previously by another person, I can't remember exactly who it was, he is of an old generation who didn't really have quite as much of a kind of change-worthy mindset, if that's the correct word to go with. He wasn't really as concerned because obviously he's not going to have to live with the consequences. However, at the same time, he was aware of the fact that it was going to be a big challenge for our generation. So while he didn't hold a very strong opinion on it, he thought that it was at least a positive step forward from somebody from a generation who, in his opinion, otherwise wouldn't do a whole lot to change the world around them, by his thoughts.
I talked to my mum this morning about it, and asking her what she thought the struggle and the I'm trying to think of the boundaries in place for young people, not boundaries, the barriers in place. And I started off that I was like, oh, she's really going off on a bad thing. She was saying about how it's just they're not interested, they're not motivated, and then she actually actually went and said, oh yeah, actually it's because they're not interested or motivated because the society makes them feel like they don't have any chance of doing anything. So actually it doesn't really, they don't think there's any point of being interested, because what's the point when nothing's going to come from it? And then we just had a discussion about that, and just kind of went into more of talk about back when she was young, in the 80s and stuff, and how they had struggles then, and then how actually it's different ones now, and I'll talk about with in terms of equality, that now you have even though it was slow progress in the 80s, you were moving forward with equality in a lot of ways, but even though it was small, but now you're actually going backwards, and it's the first time in a long time where stuff's gone backwards. In America, you've got abortion laws have now been overturned. Nothing like that has really happened, where it's gone backwards after putting a law forward, and then there's now worries about gay marriage and stuff like that, and then obviously there's all the trans rights stuff, not just in UK but in America even more so. So you've got a lot of different things, and we just went and we had quite a long discussion about just the different things, and just kind of some of the discussions we've had in the sessions we then talked about as well, just different things, seeing an opinion of someone that's from a different generation. It was quite good actually.
March, there's someone who came round about talking about climate change and stuff, and I was talking about what we were doing I've really enjoyed doing all the sessions and learning, and I found that like I'm more aware of the issues now than back at like the end of January. And I love that I'm lifeguarding.
Did they have any?
On it, she doesn't necessarily have a lot to contribute to the conversation, and she was just like, it sounds like something that would be really good, and it's nice that you've got the opportunity to do that. And that was basically as far as the conversation went. I'm like, brilliant, cheers mum.